A dense forest blocks the path ahead with a no-entry sign hanging ominously. A boy stands there, a backpack slung over his shoulders, and in his hand is a broken wooden stem. Attached to his bag is a small teddy bear keychain. He keeps walking forward, silently brooding and thinking to himself, stupid Omi-chan, never speaking to him again, utterly despises him, stupid, buggy peepee Omi-chan. Suddenly a sound emerges from behind, as if someone is approaching. The boy turns around sharply and shouts out, Omi-chan. Even if an apology comes now, it is far too late. He spots the entrance to a cave, where a rope ties together two large rocks above the opening. Near the entrance, lying on the ground, shattered, is the same teddy keychain once attached to his bag. A wide-angle view reveals the village from afar, with a solitary path leading into the forest. A girl's voice is heard, bright, confident, introducing herself as Yasumin from the Occult Exploration Squad. She sets her phone onto a selfie stick and begins filming, announcing they are deep in the mountains of MT, Shurao, located within an isolated prefecture, emphasizing how familiar this place sounds. As she walks, she elaborates that the area is infamous in the occult world as the home of the legendary man-eating cave, and today's mission is to uncover the truth behind the chilling rumors and disturbing disappearances that plague this town. With a playful wink, she warns viewers to brace themselves for a spooky, occult-style adventure. Meanwhile, on a bus, a boy sits with a water bottle and a plastic bag in front of him, watching something intently on his phone, then remarks internally, wow, spotted the first local, time to go talk to them. Unbelievable, Yasumin actually came here. Yasumin approaches a boy crouched beside a motorbike, apparently performing maintenance. She waves at him and politely asks if he knows anything about the missing children cases. The boy, whose dyed bangs fall across his forehead, rises with a grin. He wears a grease-stained tank top and a scarf-like cloth loosely wrapped around his neck, scoffing that the media has arrived and mockingly threatens to deck her, telling her to leave. Yasumin reacts in disbelief, asking him to repeat what he just said, but he replies menacingly that being a woman won't earn any leniency, then bursts into loud laughter. The boy watching the video on his phone sees this unfold and mutters, still as menacing as ever, his mouth slightly agape. That same boy soon arrives at his destination, gazes over the town, and reflects it has been 5 years since the coming-of-age ceremony, yet nothing has changed, not the town, not the people. He reaches a house where a dog, tied with a rope, immediately starts barking at him, amused. He chuckles and thinks left for Tokyo right after getting Hana-chan, so no wonder even the dog is barking now. Entering the house, someone inside exclaims at his arrival Hajime is already back. He replies that he came straight after getting off the train. The voice says to wait a moment as a call with Okada-san is being finished. Hajime settles onto the sofa, looks around with a soft laugh, and notes that everything is exactly as he left it. Looking back, he spots a wall-mounted showcase filled with toy monsters. Smiling nostalgically, he picks up a few and muses Mothman, Fishman, even Propeller Man, all legends, all from the best era, and in the center is Vigilder, the most brutal, terrifying villain of them all. Among the toys lies a photo frame. Lifting it, he grows somber, reflecting that they haven't spoken in 5 years, and wonders if they can still be called friends, thinking that someone like him hanging out with Omi was always just a fantasy. At that moment, Hajime's phone rings. He checks and finds 3 messages from Omi. Welcome back, Hajime. Gathering everyone. Let's go. He wonders how anyone even knew he was returning. These small towns truly are unsettling. Night falls, and Hajime now sits at a restaurant table with 2 boys and 2 girls. One girl teasingly asks the boy named Riku about married life and his adorable wife, trying to recall her name. Riku, seated beside Hajime, groans at the sudden question, suggesting they take things in order. The girl across from him, Akin, replies that there's no need to be dramatic, then winks at the girl beside her and adds that Futaba wants to know too, so better not delay. Futaba, more serious, insists she doesn't want to wait. Another boy seated next to Akin scans the menu, debating whether to order spicy fried chicken or wasabi mayo, while Futaba urges him not to overthink and just get both. Akin raises her hand to call the waiter and requests an oolong highball. Laughter and chatter begin to fill the table, and Futaba remarks that this moment truly feels like the good old days. Someone asks why Yumi is not here yet, considering he is the one who arranged the entire gathering. Another person questions it seriously, then suggests that perhaps something came up at his car shop. Hajime reflects silently, thinking he never truly fits into their conversations, which makes him wonder why they even invited him, most likely just because he used to be close with Yumi, and that alone is probably the only reason. At that moment, Yumi enters, scanning the group and cheerfully announcing his arrival, prompting Jen to mutter, "Speak of the devil." Riku immediately comments on Yumi's tardiness, noting that the drinking has already begun. Yumi quickly strides forward, throws an arm around Hajime's shoulders, pulling him close, nearly losing his balance in the process, then exclaims with joy, asking Hajime how he has been, and observes how much he seems to have grown, questioning whether it is the hair or the height. Hajime responds that nothing has changed. Futaba, sipping tea, remarks that the two have not changed one bit, while Akin clasps her hands together with delight, expressing how long it has been since she last saw such a moment. Jen rests his face on his hand, elbow on the table, and smirks, observing Yumi doting on Hajime once again. Yumi spoons some food toward Hajime, insisting he chew properly, adding that he still has growing left to do and not to skip the fish either. Riku shows Yumi something on his phone, saying he saw something interesting, then plays a video for the group. Jen watches with wide eyes, amazed that Yumi was on television, calling him a celebrity. Riku clarifies it is just a MyTube video. Akin reacts in shock, realizing that Yasumin actually came here, while Jen completely loses his composure. Yumi comments that threatening to punch a girl was seriously messed up. Someone among the group questions what a MyTuber was even doing here. Riku explains it ties to an old urban legend passed down in their town, the tale of the man-eating cave. Yumi elaborates, narrating that long ago, a samurai clan lost a war and was exiled from their homeland, disgraced and broken. Their former glory vanished like a forgotten dream. Desperate to survive, they began raiding villages, slaughtering anyone who resisted. Word of their savagery eventually reached the authorities, and every last member of the clan was executed, their severed heads displayed along the banks of the Shisui River. However, the golden treasures the clan plundered were never found. Over time, rumors spread that deep inside the cave on Mount Shuro, the sacred peak of Wasiro, the clan's lost treasure remained hidden. Many entered the cave searching for it, but not a single soul ever returned. Whether it was the curse of the beheaded samurai or the wrath of the mountain itself remained a mystery. Yumi, chewing and raising a cup of tea, warns the group to stay away from Shuro Cave, cautioning that lingering too close will cause the cave to swallow them whole. Riku clinks his coffee cup. While Akin laughs and admits she cannot believe she still remembers the rhyme, Futaba joins in, laughing that they used to sing that eerie song nonstop as children. They all laugh together, reminiscing fondly, mentioning the one time they almost went despite being warned by grandparents, especially Riku, who supposedly cried like a baby. Riku immediately denies it. Hajime, lost in thought, requests they change the topic, as a memory flashes of a child on a scooter, backpack in tow. Riku mentions softly that it was Yumi's little brother who disappeared near that mountain, quickly apologizing and stating that the place probably has no connection to the disappearance. Yumi shares that only the scooter was found at the mountain entrance, not even inside the cave. Jen tries to interject, but Yumi, overwhelmed with emotion, suddenly hugs Hajime tightly, tears falling as he thanks Hajime for always watching out for him, calling him too kind. Hajime begins to respond, starting to say Yumi's name softly. The group steps outside, deciding it has been long enough they should all go back up there together. They begin asking who is free tomorrow, surprised that everyone is willing to go. Futaba bids good night to everyone. Yumi instructs them all to meet in front of the campground sign the next day, firmly warning against showing up late. Riku throws it back at Yumi, teasing that of all people, he has no right to say that. Yumi and Hajime then walk side by side down the road. Yumi rests both hands behind his head, speaking thoughtfully to Hajime, saying he feels full and stiff, and food always seems to taste better when shared with others. Hajime simply stares at him, prompting Yumi to gesture toward his own face and ask if something is wrong with him. Hajime replies dryly that it is his entire vibe, and then adds hesitantly that he might sit out tomorrow's plan. Yumi reacts with surprise and asks why, to which Hajime responds with slight confusion, admitting he does not feel particularly close to the others and fears he will dampen the mood, so stepping back seems better. Yumi waves off the idea and firmly states it would not be fun without Hajime. Irritated, Hajime insists that while Yumi might be fine with it, the others likely are not, and Yumi just does not understand. Yumi, now serious, explains that everyone is genuinely impressed that Hajime moved to Tokyo on his own, and even Futaba said he is chasing his dreams, calling it cool actually saying it outright. Hajime is taken aback and asks if Mita-san really said that about him. Yumi, watching him closely, asks if he is sure he is not drunk, noticing his red face. Hajime quickly denies it, saying he has not had anything to drink. It is just Yumi places a hand gently on Hajime's head and smiles, asking if something happened in Tokyo, reassuring him that while he is here, he can just be his old self again. Hajime responds with a quiet farewell, and Yumi offers to walk him home. Hajime declines, saying he can go alone, but Yumi insists, pointing out the road has no streetlights and is unsafe due to pit vipers and punks. Hajime cuts him off, agreeing reluctantly, and Yumi proudly nods, remarking that memories from yesterday are starting to come back, and the two continue walking while chatting. Elsewhere, in a dark, trash-filled location, an eerie voice echoes through the blackness, lamenting that nothing can be seen and everything hurts, every bone feels shattered. Movement is impossible, silence surrounds, and confusion reigns over how things ended up like this. Mid the debris, a human head tries to emerge, revealing only half a face. With one hand clawing outward, the voice explains the cave collapsed and burial followed. The boy stares upward through one visible eye, thinking he cannot feel anything, questioning how long it has been, wondering if no help is coming, feeling more clear-headed than ever, and yet certain that death is imminent in this forgotten place. Suddenly, he screams in terror, refusing to die in a place like this. His eyes widen with fear just as Yumi appears, quickly covering his mouth with one hand and whispering for Hajime to calm down. Seeing Yumi, tears stream from Hajime's eyes as he softly utters his name. Yumi breathes a sigh of relief, expressing his gratitude that Hajime is alive. With a finger to his lips, Yumi urges silence and promises to get him out, but not just yet acknowledging the pain, but insisting Hajime must remain still. Yumi glances toward the darkness and warns that if he moves, something will come. Hajime, alarmed, asks what he means if someone is coming to help. Yumi pulls a phone from his shirt pocket, turns on the flashlight and directs it toward the darkness, stating that something is watching them, someone or something other than them. Hajime responds in disbelief, while Yumi continues staring and declares that something is approaching. Hajime, struggling to see, peers into the darkness and remarks it is too dim to see clearly, but a face begins to emerge. A girl's disembodied face suddenly appears, suspended in the air with twin pigtails, and Hajime, horrified, recognizes her as Yasumin, relieved for a moment, thinking she came to film and might save them. Yumi steps in front of him, shouting furiously not to look, then directs his flashlight at the face, revealing it is tied by a rope, which is gripped by an inverted alien-like being hanging from above. The creature stares directly at Yumi with a human-shaped body. The creature grins, gazing into Yumi's eyes, and speaks in a chilling voice warning to stay away from Shuro Cave, as lingering too close will result in being swallowed whole, calling the place hell the man-eating cave. Yasumin walks along the jungle path with a mobile mounted on a selfie stick in her hand, while someone off-camera encourages her with remarks like she gets this, Yasumin, and she looks like she's melting out there, make sure to stay hydrated. Yasumin responds that the path is steeper than expected, then laughs and adds that she's managing because everyone's cheering her on. Suddenly, she spots something ahead and stops in shock. It's a child's shoe lying on the ground in front of her, and she recognizes it, wondering if this shoe could be the reason behind the legend of the man-eating cave, as children have been mysteriously disappearing in this area for years. Someone comments that the situation is creepy, comparing it to a real life. Spirited away, urging Yasumin to be careful, to which Yasumin laughs and assures everyone she's a grown woman and can handle it. Then a mysterious voice echoes, correcting her that she is technically eternally 15. Ahead lays a sign reading no entry. 3 hours before the cave-in, deep in the forest stands a small hut with a large sign reading Mountain Pass Campground, around which the group of friends gathers as Yumi and Hajime arrive. Yumi waves to everyone and greets them cheerfully. Akin, pointing at Yumi's feet, questions his choice of footwear, accusing him of treating the hike as a joke, to which Yumi proudly lifts his foot to show off his summer sandals, claiming they're the vibe. Jen agrees, saying summer is about looking cute, subtly pointing out Akin is not exactly overdressed herself. Futaba, marching ahead with one arm raised, exclaims enthusiastically that everyone is present and it's time to move, and encourage everyone to follow Futaba's lead. Someone remarks that it feels like a school trip, while a girl complains that the chocolates she brought have melted, prompting a boy to suggest eating all of them. Someone agrees, and Jen thinks to himself that the girls seem to be enjoying themselves. Hajime, walking behind Jen, struggles with the heat and thinks he's dying, regretting coming along, saying he would have never left home if he knew it would be like this. Wondering who even thought climbing a mountain was a good idea. Jen turns around, smiling, and teases Hajime, guessing he's thinking the same thing. Hajime, caught off guard, scratches his head and tries to deny it. But Jen calls out the lie, admitting he feels the same, questioning the fun in dragging themselves into the mountains when they could be at home gaming. Hajime points out that Jen still came anyway, and Jen sheepishly admits that's true. Just then, Yumi climbs a small ledge, throws his arms into the air, and declares that when Yumi invites someone, it always feels like something fun might happen. Hajime ponders that statement. Jen silently signals Hajime to be quiet while showing him a rubber snake, and Hajime reacts with amused excitement, and then tosses the snake at Yumi, shouting that it's coming his way. The snake hits Yumi's hand and sticks, causing Yumi to panic and fall. Riku questions if he's all right, saying he got bit and fell. Yumi is soon seen crawling back up the hill, a bit dirtied, shouting in frustration and demanding to know who did it. Accusing them of trying to get him killed, Jen retorts that Yumi should be the one explaining what it takes to kill him. Futaba, Hajime, and Jen burst into laughter before the group resumes their hike. They reach a cave, but there's no entrance visible. Akin comments that they're almost there, and Yumi explains that just past the rundown shrine ahead, the cave entrance should appear. They see an old temple-like structure with many stairs and begin climbing, Yumi leads and comments that for a place supposedly abandoned, it is surprisingly well maintained. Akin suggests offering a quick prayer for safety, and upon reaching the top, everyone closes their eyes and clasps their hands to pray. Moving forward, they encounter a priest sitting with his head bowed. Someone asks if that is really a priest, and another confirms, noting that the shrine must not be as abandoned as it seems. Jen greets the priest politely, while Akin apologizes for disturbing him, saying they're just passing through. Jen observes the priest's hands and wonders if he is praying, but Akin guesses he is just asleep. Yumi decides it's best not to wake him, and Riku politely excuses their group. As they begin walking past, the priest suddenly rises and yells that the cave devours all. Wearing a robe and warns that the cave is watching them, urging them not to go, declaring that the cave longs to feed. Yumi and Hajime turn back in shock, and the priest continues to shout ominous warnings. Terrified, the group runs and only stops once they're farther away. Yumi questions what that was, and Jen admits he bolted in fear, calling it terrifying. Riku wonders if the man was even a real priest, while Hajime appears lost in thought. They keep walking, and Yumi suggests the heat may have scrambled the man's brain, proposing they take a different route on the way back. Everyone agrees. Hajime tries to talk to Yumi but is cut off as Yumi excitedly waves and points ahead, saying they've found it. In front of them is a cave. Everyone stops, and Riku exclaims in disbelief. Akin questions if it's a cave-in. Yumi suspects the last year's typhoon caused the collapse, pointing to the boulder that completely sealed the entrance. Futaba says she's actually relieved, admitting the old man earlier creeped her out. Akin agrees, and Riku mentions the town's strange history. Someone suggests heading back, and Hajime feels relieved. They then notice a large pile of trash ahead. Yumi points to it, confused, while Akin and Futaba question why there's garbage in the forest. They approach, and Yumi climbs the trash pile, pulling something out and angrily declaring it the legendary treasure of their ancestors. Riku calls it seriously messed up. Akin adds that it smells awful, and Hajime mutters an insult. Someone explains that townspeople use this pilgrimage path to secretly dump junk, including entire carloads of household waste. The group spots a hole nearby. Hajime and Yumi peer inside, with Hajime noting its depth, and Yumi suggesting it could connect to the cave system. Hajime warns against entering, calling it a death trap, but Yumi insists, saying they came all this way and he just wants a quick look. Suddenly, the ground begins to shake. Akin notices it first and asks if it's an earthquake. At that moment, Hajime falls into the hole, reaching upward for help. Yumi tries to catch him, but both end up falling in. Inside, they come face to face with an alien-like entity holding the severed head, showing it to the stunned and horrified Yumi and Hajime. Yumi whispers in shock, struggling to comprehend the sight, and Hajime asks in panic what the creature is. Yumi declares he'll handle it and looks for an opening. The alien suddenly grabs Hajime's legs and starts pulling him. Yumi grabs Hajime's hand, trying to pull him back. Hajime's eyes widen in terror as he screams for help. The creature continues dragging him. Yumi holds on tightly and smiles, assuring that even if death comes, he's not letting go, urging others to just grab Hajime and run. And a sudden flash from Riku's phone flashlight strikes its face, causing it to recoil and scream, releasing Hajime and retreating into the dark. Riku, holding the phone, asks if Yumi and Hajime are okay, while Futaba checks if they are hurt. Akin demands to know what the creature was, and Riku questions whether someone else is down there. Then nervously asks if he really saw it holding a head, struggling to believe it, and Akin presses for clarification, questioning the reality of it all. Riku, angry, demands answers from Yumi, who explains that the creature, whatever it was, had Yasumin's face. Jen is shocked, and Futaba realizes Yasumin must have been killed. Yumi lifts his phone, directing its flashlight into the darkness, declaring he does not know what that thing was, but he knows one thing: it is something truly horrific. Futaba looks around and asks why there are children's belongings everywhere. The group scans the area using their phone flashes, discovering children's shoes, bags, and scattered items throughout the cave. Hajime recalls the priest's words that the cave is watching, that it sees them, and that it longs to feed. And overcome with fear, he wonders aloud if this place is indeed the legendary man-eating cave. Akin and Hajime sit on the ground while Yumi shines a light ahead. Riku, Jen, and Futaba stand confused and anxious as someone asks in panic what to do now since the entrance is completely sealed off, followed by another voice questioning if they are truly trapped inside. Jen checks his phone and turns to Riku, reminding him of his profession as a firefighter and seeking guidance, expressing frustration over the lack of signal and wondering what now, while Riku illuminates his bag with the phone's flashlight and searches as he calmly instructs everyone to stay put, because in mountain rescues, wandering can reduce chances of being found, mentioning he told his wife he was heading to the mountains and expects a missing person report to be filed by morning, prompting Jen to express relief that it's their best chance. Akin reacts in disbelief at waiting until dawn, claiming they can't even survive a minute longer, while Jen clutches his head overwhelmed and wonders how things reached this point as he begins to panic. Futaba interjects, suggesting that the priest might notice the collapsed cave, which prompts Riku to question if she means the strange priest and acknowledges that he did say something odd earlier, and Futaba recalls his cryptic words about the cave devouring and watching, which makes Riku wonder if that was a warning and if it now applies to them. Just then Yumi, who has been rummaging through the debris with his light, suddenly shouts with excitement that he found something, which annoys Riku, who tells him they're having a serious discussion and demands to know what he discovered. But Yumi replies without looking back that even when he found it embarrassing and asked him to stop, he never gave up on matching outfits, leaving Futaba puzzled until Yumi smiles and explains that despite their fight that day, he still wore this when he left the house, then stands and reveals a shirt while laughing and declares that it belongs to Teiyu, and after pausing in thought, reveals that the monster had his brother's keychain around its neck, and though he didn't want to believe it, this proves Teiyu was here, exclaiming that no wonder they never found him no matter how hard they searched, wondering aloud what if, only to be interrupted by Riku placing a hand on his shoulder and grounding him by reminding him to stay rational because it's been 12 years and urges him to calm down, noting that this isn't like him. But Yumi softly reflects that Teiyu has been alone all this time, prompting Riku to cautiously ask if Yumi still believes Teiyu is alive, to which Yumi confidently declares that there's no doubt and that he is continuing forward. Jin tries to reason with him while Akin reminds everyone they had just agreed to stay put, but Hijame sides with Yumi, and when Riku reacts with shock, Hijame confesses a strong unease about remaining here, pointing out that more of the cave might collapse and the creature already knows their location, concluding that it might be smarter to keep moving as Yumi suggested, also adding that his clothes have been fluttering, indicating airflow, and where air flows there is an exit, prompting Riku to cut him off urgently and point toward his arm, where Hijame's arm is unnaturally twisted, and in pain he admits he felt something off, to which Riku yells at him to stop moving and turns to Futaba asking what to do, and a panicked Futaba responds that the bone needs to be reset immediately. But when Riku asks how, Futaba directs everyone to hold Hijame steady, then counts and forcefully resets the bone as Hijame screams in agony, after which she checks and confirms that it is set and he will be okay, all while they use their phone flashlights to light the area, and someone agrees with Yumi's earlier point that help may not arrive soon and waiting could be even more dangerous. So the group resolves to find the exit. Yumi lifts Hijame on his back despite his protests that his legs are fine, scolding him to rest while he can. And when Hijame worries about Yumi's injuries too, Yumi snaps not to compare their bodies. And Hijame accepts that response, adding a fair enough, while Yumi remarks that it's a blessing Futaba is here since she works at a university hospital and he trusts her skills, to which Hijame agrees and plans to thank her properly later, then sincerely thanks Yumi for saving him. But Yumi insists he should be the one apologizing, taking full responsibility for the situation, the cave-in, and Hijame's injury, expressing genuine regret and promising that once they escape, he will treat everyone to yakiniku, which makes everyone smile and laugh as Jen cheers for it, and insists they go to Nikashide. Akin excitedly adds it must be the premium course, and Riku teases Yumi to prepare himself because he is going to eat until he explodes, to which Yumi proudly declares that a real man doesn't go back on his word. And Hijame watches Yumi and thinks with a smile that as long as Yumi is with them, they will be fine even today. Jen, exhausted, sits down and admits he's reached his limit, and Akin, equally tired, bends over holding her knees and agrees they need a short break, while Riku checks his watch and informs them they have been walking for 3 hours, and that it's now 7 p.m. outside, noting that without sunlight everything is indistinguishable. And Jen admits he's starving, so Akin pulls snacks from her bag, places them down and says it's all just snacks but better than nothing, then scolds the group for not bringing any food, which everyone sheepishly apologizes, and she calculates that if they ration the snacks among them, they might stretch it for 3 days, but ideally they need to make it last a week, prompting Riku to calculate 1 cookie and 2 candies per person per day, to which Jen responds in disbelief and Futaba doubts its possibility. But Riku emphasizes that conserving batteries is more critical than food because if their phones die they'll be stuck in darkness, which means total disaster. Akin checks and reveals her battery is down to 26%. So Riku instructs everyone to shut everything off unless they're moving, then notices Yumi is already asleep, and Hijame smiles at the sight saying he deserves it after carrying him all this way. Jin adds that Yumi sleeps like a rock, and Riku suggests they all follow suit and take a 2-hour nap before resuming, so everyone turns off their flashlights, plunging the cave into complete darkness, prompting Jen to comment nervously that he can't see a thing and wonders what if something attacks. But Riku sternly tells him to stop whining and get some sleep, and then they all lie down and begin to rest, while Jen feels a terrifying sensation, as if that alien creature is right next to his face. Jen sleeps uneasily, sensing the alien approaching close to his face, opening its mouth as some strange fluid drips from its nose and begins to fall upon Jen's skin, jolting him awake. He reaches up to feel his face in confusion while Yumi sits nearby eating and casually asks if Jen is all right since he has been groaning, to which Jen, in a dazed tone, replies that he just had a terrible nightmare, and Yumi, munching on a cookie, shrugs that it figures given the current chaos. While the others begin to wake as well, and Futaba notices Yumi eating and scolds him for already finishing the rations she handed out. But Yumi defends himself and laughs, teasing Futaba that she must be the type to save the best for last, which is probably why she keeps missing marriage opportunities, provoking Futaba to smile coldly while picking up a stone and threaten him, making Yumi laugh and apologize for crossing the line. Afterward, everyone switches their phone flashlights back on and begins to move forward, with Jen trailing behind them, still haunted by how real that dream had felt, the lingering sensation of tentacle-like things touching him refusing to fade. While ahead, Yumi carries Hijim on his back, and Hijim glances back at Jen, worried, voicing to Yumi that Jen seems to have been mumbling to himself all along, prompting Yumi to remark that Jen has always been the sensitive type, and all of this is probably just overwhelming him, then challenges Hijim, if truly concerned, to go speak to him, which Hijim hesitates over. But Yumi reminds him he had admitted to not being close to anyone here, causing Hijim to reflect that moments like these are when real bonds can form. He then slides off Yumi's back and approaches Jen, asking awkwardly if he is doing okay. Jen stares back blankly while Hijim tries to clarify that he was just checking on him, to which Jen responds with suspicion, convinced Hijim is only asking because Yumi is tired of giving piggybacks and wants Jen to take over, furiously protesting that he is no Yumi and has no stamina to spare. But Hijim quickly denies it and insists he was genuinely worried, calming Jen, who concedes and accepts that. Then they both continue forward. Jen asks what Hijim thinks that monster really was since he saw it so closely, urging him to share, and Hijim admits that though it looked somewhat human, it was not, describing it as hideous, vicious, with enormous eyes, and though he wishes to deny it, that was no human being, speculating that it may be the source of the man-eating cave legend whispered about by the town, which leaves Jen distressed, realizing this means all the scary stories were real, and they are trapped in the same cave as that monstrous predator. But Hijim reasons aloud that it is only a theory and does not think they are in immediate danger since the creature had plenty of chances to attack, but did not, suggesting it might know it could not defeat 6 people at once, so sticking together is best, impressing Jen, who admits admiration for Hijim's courage and calmness through everything. Just then Yumi, climbing slightly ahead with his flashlight, calls everyone over after spotting something, revealing a phone and a selfie stick on the ground, which he assumes belongs to the streamer, and Jen wonders aloud if there could be footage of that thing, to which Yumi agrees but tries powering the phone with no luck as its battery is dead, prompting Futaba to reveal a power bank from her bag, stunning the group into a chorus of awe, while Akin awkwardly signals to Futaba and excuses herself to find a place to relieve herself, assuring Futaba she is fine alone and telling the boys not to dare follow, which they all agree to while the rest sit and wait for the phone to charge, as Akin, taking a light, heads off into the oppressive darkness, muttering about how pitch black it is, then finds a spot to crouch down and pulls out a cigarette pack and a few cookies from her handbag, lighting up while vowing there is no way to get through this ordeal without a smoke, then munches on a cookie while exhaling the cigarette smoke, and in the drifting haze she suddenly glimpses the alien, which attacks, grabbing Akin's face with one hand and clutching one of her legs with the other, trying to restrain her as she desperately struggles to pull her face free from its grip. Meanwhile, back at the group, the phone comes to life, and they begin watching a video. Yumi narrates that it is dated August 13, filmed 3 days ago, and everyone stares at the footage of a cave while a man's voice on the video anxiously wonders aloud where he is and calls for Yasumin to answer if she can hear him, prompting Riku to comment that they must be calling for Yasumin, which means this is someone else filming, and Futaba speculates it might be a crew member, to which Yumi agrees. Then on the video the voice pleads for the hiding to stop, because it is no longer funny, begging Yasumin to come out. But from deeper in the cave an eerie noise grows, leading the man in the video to nervously call out again that he is coming closer, only for the next shot to reveal the alien devouring Yasumin, her head inside its mouth while its hands grip her body, making the entire group watching the screen freeze in absolute shock. Seeing all of this, Jen throws up. Hijim mutters in disbelief that it can't be real. Yumi, deep in thought, murmurs there's no way something like that actually exists. The video continues, showing the alien turning toward the person recording before a sharp cry of Yasumin escapes their lips and the footage abruptly ends. Everyone sits down in shock. Riku clutches his head, stating that the creature is a full-blown monster. It was eating a human. Jen wipes his face and, trembling, questions how they're supposed to deal with something like that, admitting he's too terrified to move on. Yumi, thinking, repeats the phrase man-eating monster. Hijame, lost in thought, speaks up saying they don't know anything for sure yet. Remembering something, Hijame continues that in the video it looked like the creature was eating her head, but when he saw Yasumin, only her body was gone, her head was still intact. Roku asks Hijame what he is trying to say. Hijame suggests maybe the creature didn't eat her at all, maybe it deliberately removed her head, as if it had a specific purpose. Riku, angered, lashes out at Hijame, saying it doesn't matter, someone died, and he doesn't care why or how, and he certainly doesn't want to know. Hijame lowers his head and apologizes, admitting he shouldn't have said that. Futaba looks around and suddenly asks where Akin is. Jen replies that she went to relieve herself and never returned. Yumi says he thought she had already come back. Futaba disagrees and starts calling out for her Akin asking her to respond if she can hear them. As they move forward, Riku spots a cigarette butt on the ground and exclaims that she was just here. Yumi shouts out for Akin. Futaba shines her flashlight in one direction and states she was literally there just minutes ago. Jen wonders aloud why she left and whether the monster took her. Riku denies the possibility, reasoning that the path has been straight with no place for the creature to hide. Then, thinking it through, Riku suggests that maybe Akin turned around and went back, which seems like the only explanation. Hijame suddenly points and says there's a tunnel there. Futaba notices it too, saying she didn't even see it before. Riku observes that it's just wide enough for a person to crawl through and asks if they think Akin went in. Yumi approaches the tunnel and sees something strange covering the entrance, like it's been sealed by a viscous, translucent material. Yumi touches it with his finger and remarks on the weird substance. Jen warns him not to touch it. Riku says it looks like plant roots, but they're sticky and slimy. Yumi starts crawling into the tunnel, prompting Riku to ask what he's doing. From inside, Yumi replies that he's checking whether Akin is in there. Riku tries to stop him, calling him reckless and warning that the monster might be waiting inside. Yumi calmly responds that he is thinking that the creature is a coward that hides in the dark and targets women when they're alone, and if he catches it, he'll burn it to a crisp. Hijame, shocked, quietly reacts. Yumi declares he will bring both of them back and tells the others to wait. Jen mutters that he forgot how insane Yumi is. Hijame comments that it's too late, Yumi is already fired up. Futaba turns to Riku and asks if they can count on him. Riku agrees and follows Yumi into the tunnel. The others stay outside, sitting anxiously. Jen says it feels like they're trapped in a cliché horror movie where the group splits up and everyone gets picked off one by one, asking Hijame if he's seen one like that. Futaba quickly tells him to stop and not jinx it. Hijame just whispers the word alien. Futaba insists that Yumi and Riku will be back with Akin for sure. Jen says he wants to believe that too, otherwise they're doomed, but admits Yumi isn't thinking straight right now. He wonders if Yumi really believes his brother is still alive. Futaba sadly says there's no way, it's not even remotely realistic. Hijame, still thinking, says that even so, Yumi was absolutely serious. Futaba reflects with a heavy heart that the two brothers were inseparable, having grown up together, and she saw it all firsthand. A childhood memory flashes in Futaba's mind, Yumi riding a bicycle with Teiyu sitting in the front basket flying a paper plane, both of them laughing joyfully. She remembers how their bond never seemed to fade, even after Teiyu disappeared. Another memory surfaces, Teiyu scaring Yumi with a fake scorpion, and another where Yumi and Futaba are walking home from school, and Teiyu calls out to them. Yumi tells Futaba to go ahead, promising to catch up tomorrow before running off with his bag. He drops his bag by the lake and wades into the water where Teiyu is fishing. Teiyu points out a huge koi fish, and Yumi eagerly says they should try to catch it together. From a distance, Futaba watches the brothers laughing and playing. It felt like they had their own little world, which made her a bit jealous. That's why, she realizes. Jen concludes that Yumi needs to believe Teiyu is still alive because his brother meant everything to him. Meanwhile, Yumi emerges from the other side of the tunnel and asks Riku if he's okay. Riku, struggling, says barely asking for a moment. Yumi acknowledges and sits down, catching his breath until suddenly someone approaches from ahead. Yumi looks up and sees Teiyu standing there. Shocked, Yumi whispers Teiyu's name and asks if he's truly alive, doubting what he sees. 10 years have passed, yet Teiyu looks exactly the same. Staring at him, Yumi questions whether he's even real. Teiyu softly says none of that matters right now and urges Yumi to come, saying everyone is waiting. Yumi, overwhelmed, asks who he means. Teiyu gently takes Yumi's hand and leads him forward, assuring him everything is okay. A tear rolls down Yumi's cheek as he whispers Teiyu's name, asking again if it's really him. At that moment, Yumi notices Teiyu's fingernails long, razor-sharp, and inhumanly pointed. Yumi asks in a tone of disbelief whether this boy is really Teiyu. Teiyu responds with confusion, claiming to be himself and calling Yumi by a familiar nickname, overwhelmed with joy. Yumi lifts Teiyu into the air, while Teiyu reacts with surprise, and Yumi, still emotional, insists that there's no way he could ever mistake that face and confirms it is truly Teiyu, then embraces him tightly and apologizes, expressing regret for leaving him alone for such a long time and pleading for forgiveness. Teiyu admits he had longed to see Yumi again, confessing his fear and loneliness, but holding on to the belief that Yumi would eventually come for him. Tears begin to stream from Yumi's eyes as Teiyu thanks him for finding him and expresses his love, causing Yumi to cry harder while smiling at Teiyu only to suddenly punch him in the face, sending Teiyu flying backward. Yumi mutters to himself that he always wished to hear those words from Teiyu, but since Teiyu has never been that type and is too shy. He realizes the moment isn't real, and at that instant, Teiyu's form transforms into an alien. Yumi shines his phone's torchlight on the creature's face and notices an unusual liquid oozing from its nose as it snarls, prompting Yumi to angrily shout that it made him strike his own brother, and that it will pay for that. Outside the tunnel, Futaba asks Gen whether he heard the sound, to which Gen, irritated and fearful, tells her to stop trying to scare him since he didn't hear anything. Futaba still insists they should go after the others, believing it would be safer if they all stayed together. But Gen firmly refuses to crawl into the terrifying tunnel and claims he would rather die, believing it's wiser to wait for Yumi and the rest to return. Futaba sits in a corner and begins to cry, and Gen, frustrated, tells her to stop. But Futaba worries about Akin being all alone and possibly terrified. Gen replies that crying won't help. Futaba stands up and declares she's going to help Akin, leaving Gen behind, who nervously protests and says he can't be left alone with Hijame or he'll die. Then turns to Hijame and urges him to say something. Meanwhile, Hijame remains completely focused on watching a damaged phone recording with intense concentration, causing Gen to explode in disbelief, questioning whether Hijame is seriously still watching that video and accusing him of losing his mind. Hijame, gripping the phone, begins comparing the environment around him to the video, pointing at a protruding rock, a groove, and other matching landmarks while stating that this exact spot mirrors the one shown in the footage, and concludes that Akin is likely somewhere nearby. Futaba and Gen stare at him in stunned silence when suddenly Riku emerges from the other side of the tunnel, exhausted and irritated, vowing never to crawl through that hole again, and asks Yumi whether Akin really only to pause as he shines the torch on Yumi and gasps in horror. Realizing something is wrong, Riku sees Yumi holding the alien by its neck with one hand, the creature lying lifeless without resisting, and asks in astonishment whether Yumi really defeated that thing and how he managed it. Yumi glances at his wounded hands and casually replies that he punched it 5 times, prompting Riku to scream in disbelief, admitting that while Yumi has never lost a fight, this creature was an actual monster. Yumi turns around, smiling at Riku, and confidently states that he beat it, but also admits something felt wrong. He originally thought he was hallucinating, but the creature spoke, felt, and looked exactly like Teiyu, right down to every familiar detail. Riku watches Yumi in shock and notices something strange leaking from Yumi's nose. Thinking something is wrong, at that exact moment, someone suddenly attacks Yumi from behind, shouting a threat to kill him. And Riku turns to see a girl standing there and gripping a small digging tool in her hand. Girl comes running toward Riku and Yumi, shouting with rage that she is going to kill them. Yumi attempts to strike her, but she swiftly dodges, causing the attack to miss. And then she retaliates, her blow landing and knocking Yumi to the ground, at which moment Yumi looks at her and realizes that she was with Yasumin. The girl apologizes sincerely, admitting she didn't realize he was human, and then asks Yumi if he is all right. Riku smiles and assures her that it's fine, saying such things are nothing for him, while Yumi complains that it's easy for Riku to say because it actually hurts. The girl repeatedly apologizes and introduces herself as Marika Suda, explaining that she came with Yasumin to assist with her filming project. Yumi tells her they found her phone and saw what she and Yasumin went through. And Marika, now somber, confirms that they must have seen that terrifying entity too and speaks Yasumin's name with sorrow. Riku curiously asks how she even got into the cave, pointing out that the entrance was completely buried, to which Marika responds that since the main path was inaccessible, they searched the mountains in hopes of finding another entrance. And then as she narrates the flashback, she describes how darkness was falling when something suddenly leaped from the bushes and attacked. And the next thing she remembers is being inside the cave already, shortly after which Yasumin began to panic as if seeing something horrifying. Before running off alone, and what she saw after that mirrored the horrifying video, she admits she became so terrified that she kept hiding in fear. And Riku listens quietly while Yumi concludes that if something dragged both of them inside, it means that creature can move freely in and out of the cave, which aligns with what Hijame said about there being another exit. Marika, now weeping, expresses immense relief and gratitude for being rescued, confessing she thought she was going to die in there. Yumi tells Riku not to make her cry, prompting Riku to respond with surprise, and Marika explains that after several days she started hearing voices and seeing things, to the point she could no longer distinguish between reality and illusion, and that even when she attacked them, she believed she was striking at a hallucination. Yumi asks what she saw, and Marika answers that it was the ghost of her deceased grandfather, while Yumi reflects that he saw his missing brother. And initially believed he might be a spirit, but everything from the appearance to the touch felt too real. Riku remarks that both experiencing hallucinations cannot be a coincidence, and Yumi agrees, suspecting that something is deeply wrong with the cave beyond just the monster. Meanwhile, Futaba asks Hijime what he means about Akin being there. And Hijime explains he noticed something during a review of the video the rock formations, ledges. And curves match perfectly with the location where Yasumin was killed, but there is one rock now present that wasn't in the footage, and he points it out to Gen and Futaba on the video. Futaba confirms he's right, the rock wasn't there before, and Gen, shocked, wonders if it could be something more. Futaba rushes over and touches the so-called rock, only to feel an unusual liquid substance on her hands, and realizes it resembles tree roots rather than stone. Gen warns her not to touch it too much, but Futaba angrily retorts that Akin might be trapped inside and begins wiping away the liquid while calling Akin's name, eventually revealing Akin's face and shouting in disbelief. Then both she and the others work together to pull Akin out and lay her down unconscious, but breathing normally, prompting Futaba to express joy and Hijime to give thanks. While Gen admits he was terrified, Hijime wonders aloud why Akin was trapped inside that thing. Suspecting the monster's involvement, and Gen theorizes with horror that it might be something like alien egg-laying a scene in sci-fi films, to which Futaba scolds him for saying such creepy things. Hijime notices the strange substance on his own hand, and staring at it, realizes with growing fear that it is wriggling. Elsewhere, Marika, staring at the dead monster, expresses astonishment that Yumi actually defeated such a creature, and Riku jokes about not knowing who the real monster is. But at least that thing won't haunt them anymore, and now they just need to find an exit. Marika suddenly halts and points toward the alien's corpse, declaring that this is not the same one she saw, which shocks Yumi. And at that exact moment, a piercing shriek echoes from the dark passage. Yumi, Riku, and Marika turn their eyes toward the sound as Riku demands to know what's going on. And Yumi looks ahead with deep concern while Marika announces with dread that the real one is coming, and from the shadows. Two monstrous feet begin to emerge. An old house stands, and in one of its rooms, a boy sits beside some luggage boxes, his back resting against the wall. A voice calls out, asking Hijime to come and greet the neighbors. The boy imagines 4 older boys each grabbing one of his arms and legs, swinging him before throwing him into a trash bin while laughing and mocking him. Then the same boys force him in the school bathroom to touch the toilet seat with his tongue while a crowd of students watches from the door, laughing loudly. They chant and cheer as they strip him naked and take pictures of him on their phones. Later in class, a dummy of him hangs in front of the board with the words "Toilet Deity. Thanks for your hard work" written above. At that moment, a lady enters the room and asks if Hijime is okay. Hijime smiles and replies that the ride must have made him a little sick. The lady gently responds that she will greet the neighbors herself and tells him to rest. She then hands him a box and mentions that Ken gave it to her before they got on the truck, saying it's for him. She places the box down and leaves. Hijime stares at the box, opens it, and finds a handmade card with a heart drawn in the center with his name written inside, surrounded by numerous kind messages. Hijime reads phrases like, "We will be friends forever. Thanks for all the fun memories. Take care. Let's play again." He reflects that it was a terrible dream. Then suddenly remembers the cave and realizes it wasn't a dream, it truly happened. Still sitting there, Hijime vomits. Back inside the cave, pain shoots through his arm as he mutters that it doesn't even feel like his own anymore. He reflects how this place is hell, but in truth, it's not all that different from the outside world. At that moment, Akin enters the chamber and sits down, asking everyone what they are doing, mentioning how she had been completely out. Futaba rushes to her joyfully, cups her face in her hands, and exclaims in relief that she is awake, expressing deep worry. Gen apologizes to Futaba sincerely. Then Futaba updates Akin that Yumi and Riku are missing and that Gen has suffered a breakdown, oddly making Hijime the most dependable among them. Akin looks at Hijime and asks if he was the one who found her. Hijime admits it, and she laughs, awarding him 10 points. Hijime says he's just glad she's okay. Akin, smiling thoughtfully, shares that while she was unconscious, she had a beautiful dream, a bittersweet love story with her first crush, and honestly wouldn't have minded staying in that dream a little longer. Gen groans, saying he had genuinely worried, and complains no one cares about her cheesy dreams. Akin snaps back, asking if she can't be happy for once. Gen then asks what the plan is, whether to go after them or wait. As Akin begins to speak, her left eye suddenly protrudes and begins to melt off her face. Her hands start to dissolve too, and she collapses as her entire body begins to melt away. Futaba screams in horror, calling Akin's name, and tries to lift her, shouting for her to stay conscious. But Akin's head separates from her body. Futaba breaks down in sobs, wailing uncontrollably. Gen stammers in terror, asking what is happening. Akin, she melted. Futaba cries hysterically, calling Akin's name again and again. Hijime stares in horror at Akin's severed head and thinks they have only been lingering at the doorstep of hell. Elsewhere, Riku hears a strange noise and asks about it. Marika says it's coming closer. Riku questions her, and Marika trembles, saying it's the creature she saw. Yumi steps forward, hands his phone to Marika, instructs both of them to keep their lights fixed on it, and says he'll handle it. Marika screams, calling him insane, and reminds him that the one she saw was much larger than the previous creature. It even swallowed Yasumin's head whole. Riku also screams, urging Yumi to hide instead. Yumi retorts that they're in the middle of its nest and asks where they could possibly run, so it's better to fight and beat every last one they see. Then, shouting in fury, he challenges the creatures to come out. Immediately, countless aliens pour out from inside, big and small. Laughing eerily, some crawl across the ceiling like infants. Others rush forward from all sides. Yumi looks at the two and yells for them to run. As many hands reach out, trying to grab Yumi. Some of the aliens capture Yumi, while others advance toward Riku and Marika. The two immediately begin to flee. Omi sits in one place, eyes shut, as distant voices echo in his ears, calling out to him, urging him to wake up and open his eyes. When he finally opens them, he sees Riku, Yumi, and Marika all bound by a single rope that loops around their necks and ties their hands. Two large altars placed in front of them, containing bowls filled with some unknown liquid. Yumi looks ahead and sees a dark tunnel just beyond the bowls and questions with anger and confusion. What kind of twisted ritual this is? He mutters about a mural, but struggles to understand why something like this would exist. Riku, in tears, looks to Yumi and asks what will become of them, while Marika sobs, expressing her fear of dying in this place. Behind the three stands a group of aliens. A temple scene appears where another man sits reverently, legs folded beneath him, and a large curtain sways with the breeze. This man bows deeply in prostration before massive statues of deities. A voice echoes, warning to stay away from Mount Shurou's cave, declaring that stepping too close will result in being entirely consumed. It is a place of terror, the man-eating cave. Meanwhile, the mysterious man continues his prostration before the idols, now seated. He clasps his hands together and gazes at the idols with a serene smile. Countless voices begin to chant in unison, repeating, "Cave God, Cave God." Inside the cave where Yumi, Riku, and Marika are bound, all the aliens suddenly fall into deep bows. Yumi turns back to observe them and questions their behavior. Noticing how they are all bowing in reverence, then they witness 3 or 4 aliens carrying the naked body of a girl. And as her head is severed from her body, Marika recognizes her. It is Yasumin. Tears begin to stream from Marika's eyes as she softly speaks Yasumin's name. One of the figures, who appears more humanoid and partially cloaked, throws Yasumin's lifeless body and head into the mouth of the tunnel. Suddenly, all the aliens erupt into a wild celebratory dance. Expressing unrestrained joy, Marika sobs uncontrollably. Yumi is visibly disturbed, and Riku trembles with fear, yet the aliens continue to dance chaotically. Shrieking with excitement, Yumi stares intensely into the depths of the cave, repeating silently in his mind that it truly is a place of horror, the man-eating cave.